Today I've got a chance to talk about one of my all-time favourite numbers and about circles again, which I really love. So don't have the characters from school. So what I've done is I've gone around the house and gathered up a collection of things. How many would you reckon I have there? Any thoughts? There's actually 60. So one of the nice things about 60 is that it's a small enough number that you can actually, hold 60 or something in your hand, but also it divides up beautifully. Let's see how 60 will divide up into two equal parts. So half and half, and I'm going to divide up by 60. The way of doing it is just dealing them out. One for you, one for me, one for you, one for me. And we're done. On each side of my plate there's 30. 60 divided by 2 is 30. Let's try another number. I'm going to divide it into 3 parts, into thirds. Okay? So now here's something you might actually have in your house that's really handy if you're ever putting anything into thirds. If you get a pizza, this little gizmo is really useful if you're trying to share up your pizza in something that divides by 3. Okay, so let's divide up our 60. 60 divided by 2 was 30. 60 divided by 3. So I'm going to line this up in sets of 3, and then I'm going to share it out. Count of those, if you were in the humour for counting, you'd find that I had 20 sets of 3 here. And then if I take each of them and divide them up into my plate, okay, and each section I have 20. So 60 divided by 3 makes 20. Each part of it. Back she all goes. Now I'm going to divide by 4. Here's my plate that I used for 2, so I'm going to divide it again by 4. Half of a half. How many is it going to be in each quarter? It's definitely going to be less than 20, isn't it? Have you noticed that every time I divide it up, the amount in the collection gets smaller? So now I'm going to divide by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And 4 lots of 15 has made 60. So 60 divides evenly by 2, by 3, by 4. Will it divide by 5? Let's see. Now, time for another plate. So, dividing by 5 can be tricky. I happen to have these little lads that I'm going to use to help me. I'm going to show you another way as well. So I'm putting these all in towards the centre, and I'll mark with some of the little post-its. Okay, you may not have a fraction set, but you've probably got one of these, a protractor. So if you remember that all the way around a circle it has 360 degrees. So if you're going to make your circle into fifths like this, each little section of your pie is going to have 360 divided by 5. And as it happens, that turns out to be 72 degrees. So you could use your protractor, put it down, and measure an angle of 72 degrees and get your fifths that way. Okay, so what is a fifth of 60? 60 divided by 5. Well, this time I divided 60 by 5 and I've ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in each section. So 60 divided by 5 is 12. We've divided by 5 and in every section we've got 12, reminding me quite a lot of our clock with our 60 minutes in every hour. And it's in 12 sections. Each section has 5 minutes. So will 60 divide by 6? Well, remember the very first number we divided it by was 2, and then we divided by 3. So if we're going to divide by 6, we're going to have to make each of those thirds in half. And look, as you do it, you can see I'm making lots of lines all the way across, because a sixth is a half of a third. My sixths, I've put them out in groups of 6, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 groups of 6. If I take 1 from each group, that is 1/6. 10 is 1/6 of 60. I did try out 7 and 8 and 9, but they didn't work. I got leftovers. Maybe you'd like to check my work though. But I did find the next number that was going to work, which is actually going to be tenths. Now I have my fifths plate, so a tenth is half of a fifth. So just like I did when I was turning my thirds into sixths, I'm dividing each of my fifths into 2. I've got 10 sections. And as you can see, I've got lots of halves happening as well. Like if I go all the way across here, that's a half. And in that half, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my tenths. 5 tenths is a half. It's an equivalent fraction. So there it is. And just because the plate's getting a bit messy, I'm going to do my same plan again. I'm going to put them in groups of 10 and see how many I get. Okay. 8, 9, 10. So now I've got my groups of 10. And as you can see, I've ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 groups of 10. And that actually makes sense, doesn't it? Because when we were putting them into groups of 6, we got 10 of them. So if I take 1 from each of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1/10 of 60 is 6. Now this plate was the plate for sixths. And now I'm dividing each sixth into 2 sections. So I'm going to end up with half of a sixth, which is a 12th. So starting here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 sections. And let's see how 60 divides by 12. I'm going to put them into groups of 12. Now, okay, so I've put out my 12s, and as you can see I've arranged them lots of different ways. I've arranged them in sets of 2, 6 lots of 2, 12 lots of 1, 3 lots of 4, 4 lots of 3, and a sort of a jumble. Each of those is 12. And we ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots of 12. So 1/12 of 60 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1/12 of 60 is 5, just like on your clock. 1/12 of the way around the clock is 5 minutes. Quarter way around the clock is 15 minutes. Halfway around the clock is 30 minutes. What was 10 minutes? How much around the clock? It's a sixth, isn't it? Okay, just one more to go. Okay, so we've been dividing up 60, and it is a lovely number for dividing because it'll divide by 2, by 3, by 4, by 5, by 6. it'll divide by 10 and by 12, and there are other numbers that 60 will be divided by. You can explore the number yourself and find out what they are.